She's conservative and I'm liberal, and yet we've been friends for almost 40 years. Everyone says you shouldn't discuss politics, religion, or money. And we say that's exactly what friends should be talking about. Join us as we tackle the conversations you're having in your head, but are too scared to say out loud. Welcome to We've Got to Talk. Welcome, my dear friend Jolene.
Thank you, Nicole. It is so good to be with you all again today on We've Got to Talk. We are discussing accountability on Capitol Hill. Question mark? Is there? Should there be? Do we have it?
I don't know.
Just for a little context here, I think we started talking about this really with the Graham Plattner thing and the Ken Paxton. How far are the parties willing to go in their desperate need for numbers and to win and all those things? So we said we should do a podcast on this. And here's what's interesting is then I started thinking of a lot more things that I would like to see. So here are my top three. Number one, more time in Washington, D.C. We've talked about this before. You've brought up before that back in the 90s, they really switched from a 5-day a week to 3 days per week in D.C. for various reasons. But has that affected the way that people can work together? So I have thoughts on that. Number two, stock trading. Eliminate it. The fact that our president and a lot of Congress people are making a lot of money. And if you take a look at what was their net worth when they became a congressperson to what is their net worth today, making $174,000, $175,000 our Congress people make, how is it they've become millionaires? Isn't that interesting? So that's number two. And number three, the budget process. I'm tired of continuing resolutions that just kick the can down the road. We've heard that phrase 100 times. Every time that one of the parties wants to weaponize the whole budget process and they shut down the government, it's all bullcrap. And we need to be the adults and say, this is the way that we need to establish our budget, and we live by it, and we do that. We haven't passed a budget since 1997.
Really?
Yep. Continuing
Wow.
resolutions. We passed it in 97, and 98 was the last budget. I mean, they passed it in 97 for the 98 budget. Haven't had one since then. Continuing resolutions the entire time.
Continuing to kick the can down the road and,
Yep.
and blame the next party in.
Yep.
Okay, I need you to buckle up, Jolene, because mine are long. And I need to put my glasses on so that I can read my chicken scratch. I am also thinking about accountability on Capitol Hill. I was thinking about Lindsey Graham's sudden passing. And I was just honestly thinking about like the current lives of our politicians. And because of how they are living their lives, it was giving me pause. Thinking again, like what you just said, I think it was in your number one. Thinking about the Clinton-Gingrich 1995 schedule shift, where they changed the work week from 5 days to 3 days. Number one, it was making me think, and we've talked about this in other podcasts before, it's not good for the polarization in this country. It's not good for bipartisan socialization. And it started to make me think, and again, I don't know, I'm not a doctor and I don't know Lindsey Graham's health, but it started to make me think about a person's health and what we've set up for a person to run this country, to work on running this country. Are we really giving our politicians the best chance of a healthy, stable life? That's my number one. Number two, we can talk about age. We can talk about the fact that Biden was too old. We can talk about that Trump's too old. We can talk about that Feinstein was too old. We can talk about that RBG was too old. McConnell's too old. But to me, it's more than this age issue. To me, it's about power and these politicians not wanting to lose it. It's becoming about the politicians' own self-interest and not about helping the people of this country who the people elected them, and these politicians are supposed to be serving us, and yet it seems that it's really about holding on to power. Number three, I don't want to be insensitive here, but when Representative Tom Keene went missing for 4 months for depression, and he claimed that it was because he, quote, was a private person, unquote. He missed 100 votes. He was not heard from in his district or in D.C. Mitch McConnell went MIA for 3 weeks because he, quote, his generation doesn't like to admit weakness, unquote. Now, I want to be clear about something. These two examples that I've just given are Republicans. And I would say this for Democrats as well. Like Fetterman, he was diagnosed and went into the hospital for depression as well. When a person is elected to office by the people to represent us, you are no longer private. You can't just disappear and think that that's okay. Like, if this were the private sector, you'd probably be fired. If not, you'd be warned. And I think this might have to do, strangely, work with me here, what you're talking about with the stock trading and the money that they're making. There's this entitlement now in politics that I feel like needs to be wiped out. And I don't know if term limits are the answer, where you go into office, you do the best you can, and then you move on. So what is going on here? And my final takeaway in this is, does this need to be a partisan issue? I don't think so. I think you and I are both equally frustrated. It doesn't matter if we're a Republican or a Democrat, that we want our politicians that we have put into office to be held accountable and to not use their place for power, money. You're the one that has that Constitution. By the people, for the people.
I agree. We could really get into the weeds on these topics. But so from a high level, I think we're getting to this point where almost everything that is happening is ridiculous. It's like another level of ridiculousness. And again, the representative Tom Keene, you know, it sounds like a horrible situation.
Of course.
But as you pointed out, if he worked for me, he would have come to me and said, I got to deal with this. I've got a situation and I need to deal with it. And I would say your mental health is more important than anything. And I don't know anybody else who would say anything different. And so we would give him that time and know that he is being taken care of. The fact that we knew nothing, we had no idea where he was, why he was out. The same with Mitch McConnell. I was a conspiracy theorist and thought that he was dead. And we needed to hang on to him until August, because we didn't need a special election in Kentucky with a governor who's a Democrat. And I mean, these are the things that we're thinking of when we don't know.
Right. And even the photograph that they put out, people were like, it's fake, it's fake. I'm like, what is going on here? And it's similar to what you said at the beginning, Jolene, about Graham Plattner and Ken Paxton. We're really at this point that it doesn't matter who we put in office just so that our side wins. I had a conversation with a friend that was like, well, it's, you know, he's a raper, so what? So is Trump. And I am just, I'm like, I'm sorry. I expect more of us.
You know, there was just this afternoon, we're recording this on July 16th, and just this afternoon, there's new allegations of Representative Gallegos. 2 women have accused him of sexual misconduct. Ironically, he is a good friend of Eric Swalwell. They are buddies, and the 2 of them were in the Bro Coalition. You know, that they've got the power, they've got this power, and it doesn't matter what they do because they're untouchable. And there's so much of that. I think there's so much of that bravado in D.C. that, like you said earlier, like that power is so strong, and that the wanting that power
the addiction
is so
of it,
strong.
Right?
Yes. That, you know, people were willing to overlook things with all of these people because they wanted them in power. And at what point do we go back to, I mean, I know we've talked about this before, but I go back to the Bill Clinton era, when we were like, character counts, and, we want our children to look up to the office of the presidency, and that's naughty, and he's a bad man. And now we're like, yeah, if that's the worst thing that happens, boy, that would be a walk in the park.
Everyone has access to so much information. You heard allegations about John F. Kennedy having affairs, and that this is not a new phenomenon, is my guess. There is a certain amount of confidence, possibly a certain amount of ego that it takes to run for office. To be elected, you might be fairly magnetic. And my guess is that this is not a new thing that people sleep around. We just know about it way more than back in the day.
Yeah.
Or maybe society was more polite and you just didn't spread those rumors.
Yeah, right.
But now I just feel like we've sunk so low.
But I also think that our society, we've talked about this before, that our system feeds into that.
Yes.
You've got to be polished and you have to be, good looking, and we are feeding into that part of our brain that's okay because we want them to be powerful and manly, and obviously I'm talking about the men, but you certainly don't want wimpy women, and so you don't want a woman who's going to cry, and
even like this was before our time as well, but the television changed politics. When they started to televise candidates, it was much more about their appearance than like being on the radio. You and I just brought up a lot of issues and a lot of things that we feel are wrong, and we're on opposite sides, right?
Yeah.
But we both feel frustrated about what's going on. What are the solutions? And one thing that's tricky is that, will we ever get a Congress that would approve term limits? Because that would then approve that it would take their power away. So Chip Roy and AOC created this bill to stop stock trading in Congress. But how are we going to get all these people to vote for it, which then will make them not become the millionaires that they are now? Like, do you have any suggestions, Jolene?
Well, it's almost like it needs to be some type of a ballot initiative that we as the people get to vote on these things and say that we want to make this law because we don't think that they're capable of making a law. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is it an amendment? Is it I don't know. But I think you're right. I don't think we can trust them.
Right, and term limits as well. Like, we have to be able to bring trust back into the government, which I think Democrats and Republicans I think everyone's very distrustful at this point.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Right.
But I do think that you're going to get pushback on term limits because there are those who think that there is a benefit to having your senator in there for 4 terms because they sit, they're on the highest committees. They're, that they do a lot for your state because they are the most influential. They know the players, they play the game,
sure.
Blah, blah, blah.
I think experience is important, but what do we do when people are ill or old?
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? It doesn't seem like there's any sort of clauses. And in this Congress, 6 people have died just in this term.
Oh, wow.
6 people. And that's an issue. Like, there's no precedent? I don't know.
Because the average age, I think, is 65? Isn't that? Did you see that?
I think that's right. I don't think it's necessarily because people died of old age. Lindsey Graham was only 71.
Yeah. Okay. So then now, we could open up the whole can of worms of...
Let's open it.
Is this the best way? Are we doing this the best way? Have we gone so far down this system of electing our congressional candidates, and then they spend so much time fundraising that they're not actually working in D.C., and that money and the PACs and the super PACs and the lobbyists, the whole thing, we could go on and on and on about how bad the system has gotten. Do we need to completely redo the system and value our democracy, yet do it in a different way?
I mean, I would say yes. What would you say?
I don't know that we'll see it in our lifetime.
But I don't know when we would actually ever see it because people don't want to give their power up. Like, how do we do that? I mean, you've taught me this on this podcast, money and power, money and power. They go hand in hand. If politicians have free reign on how much money they get to spend on their campaigns, it's going to be very rare when someone that has no money wins.
Right. But especially if we're asking them to stay in Washington, D.C. then for 5 days. So, okay, if you've got a family, you're moving your family, can you afford to live in D.C.? I mean, I know that you have a budget. You get a stipend from, as a congressperson, to be able to pay for your staff and your housing and your transportation back and forth, but not for your family and not for your kids.
Right.
So there's so much that goes into this that there's obviously not a quick and easy answer. But we've said that's one of the things that we both agree on, that there has to be more relationship building in Congress to be able to, talk to people. I'm sure you saw the Elena Kagan was speaking in front of in a subcommittee or a committee hearing. But she took time out to talk about Lindsey Graham, and she's predominantly a judge on the Supreme Court who leans left. But, she talked about, this relationship that she had with Lindsey Graham, and it was very heartfelt, and it was funny, and you're like, gosh, just hearing that story alone, you were like, oh, that makes me feel good. I mean, that's, one little story that, that we don't get to hear because there's so much vitriol that we hear about that we don't get to hear some of those good things.
I mean, I think also, because I also in my threads have been seeing that whether it was Cory Booker or Adam Schiff, Amy Klobuchar, who said, they were sad and they are going to miss their friend. And they also talked about how they sometimes ferociously disagreed. Yeah. But those are the things that you can do, as you've said a bunch of times, you can do two things at the same time. Like, you can debate ferociously and still care about another person. And we don't highlight that anymore. We talk about this a lot as well. The exhaustive majority, there are more of us on the left, the right, and the middle in the exhaustive majority than the very loud, very screamy, very look at me wings on the left and the right. And if we maybe were a little less exhausted and banded together. I actually talked to David French, like a little back and forth with him recently, feeling fairly partyless right now. It certainly doesn't feel good, but I also think that it's okay. And I think it's important that I possibly say it, and I say it here, because I don't identify right now really with what's going on in the Democratic Party. I don't believe we should put people in that at all costs to win. I think we've talked about this a million times, that I believe in decency. Full stop. I am so tired of what's going on in our politics, and I do think we need to model something different. The kids coming up, they've only seen fighting and bad behavior, and why should they think anything different? And, I'm very excited about Layla Zayden, we're going to interview at the end of the month, and I'm assuming we will air her in August. And she created the Future Caucus, and they just had this gathering, this conference in D.C. this past week, and I've been following them on Instagram. And it's Gen Z and millennial politicians that they are coming up working together, because I just see this as hope for us and for our country, because they don't look so much at red and blue. They look at basically the old people and the young people. And we are lopped into the old people.
How dare you?
How dare they?
say that?
I know. We'll have to talk to Layla about this. We're like, can we please be in your future caucus, even though we're the older
You're
ladies?
so young.
Come on.
Okay, can I ask you
Yeah.
this? As a woman who has Jewish ties, if the Democratic Party comes out and establishes on a platform that they are not supporting Israel, what will that do for you?
People take these grand stances and they don't understand the full story. I also understand that Netanyahu is not every Israeli person, just like I understand that President Trump is not every American. But we make these grand stances, and I'm very concerned about the rise in anti-Semitism. Do I agree with everything that Benjamin Netanyahu has done? Absolutely not. I also don't blame the Jews for what he does, and I don't blame necessarily Israelis for what he does. I think he is a self-interested, power-hungry, dangerous person. That is what I believe. Do I think what's going on in the democratic socialist movement of this rise in anti-Semitism, that they're blaming the Jewish people for the destruction of Gaza? That, to me, is equally as dangerous. So that's part of the thing that I feel partyless about, is I'm like, everything is very black and white. And I find that dangerous.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Like, there's no nuance. There's no room. Rahm Emanuel, he spoke, and I didn't disagree with him. He was like, don't just expect, Israel, that we are going to support you. And that was the most, in my opinion, sane and thoughtful argument. But again, I think when we lump in all of these different groups and blame each other, it's really, really dangerous.
Yeah, no, I think it is a slippery slope that the Democratic Party, if they think that Mamdani is the new head of the Democratic Party.
I mean, Mamdani is a really good politician. And I think one thing that people really, they are attracted to him, things that I feel like they could learn, that we could all learn from, is that he's smiling most of the time. He seems like a pretty joyful person, and we are all hungry for it. I also think he's incredibly smart, and he definitely is learning how to play the game in New York really fast. And I don't think he is necessarily the poster child of where I'm concerned is these fringes that are even more left than him, and that he endorsed, like Chevalier. She to me is incredibly dangerous. But one thing that I find that I just want to say to our Democratic listeners and viewers, that David French has taught me a lot about, who's a conservative voice, about where the Democratic Party could go versus where it is going. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes just because it's so. David Brooks, who was a New York Times columnist and is now, he writes for The Atlantic. Jolene and I did an episode last fall. He wrote a really amazing article called How America Got Mean. And it's actually been our highest rated episode. And he's a really, really smart person. And now he's on the Yale faculty. He is part of the Jackson School of Global Affairs. And I saw this talk that I sent to you. And I recommend everybody to watch it. I know it's like an hour, but it's so worth your time, because he goes in and talks about the history, and that it is a difficult time, but we in some ways have been here before, and sort of goes through each decade and as to why we are here where we are. And one of the things that I really loved about the talk was that he was basically like, hey, Democrats, and similar to what David French would talk about, like, you might want to look at like just at the decency track. Like there are things that that right now it's not surprising that we are swinging so far left that acting like Chevalier and Graham Plattner are okay and what is our response? Well, we have Trump. So that's the response. That's what we're deciding versus like, hey, maybe we should have someone like James Tallarico. Maybe we should start talking to each other. Maybe we should hold up just candidates on either the right or the left that want to work together, that want to be kind, that want to be like. So part of me is like, and I said this to David French the other day. I was like, maybe we need that party, like the decency party, where the exhausted majority can all just like join that party and crush everybody else. Just crush everybody else and get back to basic. And this might not be popular, but maybe we do need to like stop stock trading, but we need to raise the wage of Congress people. Like, here's the deal. I don't know how much people get paid. I know it's Google.
175.
Across the board?
175,000. Yeah, everybody gets the same amount.
Congress people and senators?
Yep. And if you hold a position of like if you're the Speaker of the House, you get more money, but everybody gets paid $175,000.
It is a lot in Missouri and Arkansas.
That's a lot.
It's not a lot in New York, unfortunately.
But
I'm just saying.
But if you
maybe,
have everything else paid for, if that's your salary,
absolutely, it's not bad. And that's the thing is that, and this is maybe being Pollyannic, but don't people go into public service to help serve, not to make money?
Absolutely. But you've got to have money to be able to run.
That's right.
And that's
right.
the part that it's this vicious cycle.
I mean, that happens on the local level, Jolene. I know that in Utah that the state house, they're part-time. Mm-hmm. They're part-time and they do not make a lot of money. And I thought I was shocked. I didn't know how that worked. And that leads a person like they have to have a certain amount of money to be able to live and run, and that doesn't seem representative.
Well, you also have to have a job that allows you to be gone for. I mean, and I know in Iowa it's like the sessions, and I think it's this way in Missouri too. The session starts in January and only goes through April. So I mean,
I think
it's
Utah's
4 months.
the same. They smash it all in, right?
Yeah, and so like if you're an insurance salesman, then you can kind of do that, but you still got to be able to run your business, because then after April, you still have to work your other job 8 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the other thing though, that when I started thinking about the whole spending more time in Washington, and one of the arguments of only having a 3-day work week is so that the Congress people can go back into their districts and meet with their constituents and get a pulse on, what's going on there. And I'm like, okay, but this is 2026. Like, we all have Zoom calls, we all have text, we all have emails. I mean, I feel like our people, our congressional delegates are very accessible. So
it's a very good point.
Or they should be. And
That's
so
I
having them go back to a town hall, I mean, that is valuable, but maybe that's a Sunday afternoon, or, maybe that's a Saturday afternoon, whatever.
And also, like, Jolene, you sent me, I mean, I'll put this in the show notes, that document of the history of Congress scheduling, which I thought was, thank you for sending that to me. It was super helpful because in my research, and maybe it's, a liberal algorithm, I don't really know, but when I would Google, it would talk about the 1995 schedule shift that Newt Gingrich proposed that stuck from the 5 days to the 3 days. But you sent me this document that was a congress.gov document, and it showed the history, and I think it started like maybe in the early 70s, if I recall. They always were working on zhuzhing. That's not the official word, but zhuzhing the schedule. And one of them, I don't know if it was I don't know why 1977 is popping in, but to my brain, but there was one, I don't know if they used it, but one proposal was like 3 weeks on, 1 week off, which to me also made tons of sense. I'm in Washington for 3 weeks. I put my head down and then a week back in my constituency. But I agree with you, Jolene. We are so modern now. You can do a Zoomed town hall. You can get a pulse. Unfortunately, you're so available.
Yeah.
Right? That it's more like maybe part of this is the mental health issues in Congress is that you need actual time to shut everything down, that you're allowed to take a weekend off, or that you're allowed to not have your phone next to your bed. Things like that to make you sane and well doing this work.
Yes, would agree with you there. Going back to the spending more time in Washington, too, I started thinking about it in terms of school. Like when we were in school, if you miss so many days, you don't pass. I mean, you could only miss 10 days of school or an unexcused absence. And obviously, if you got mono, you were going to be out for a week or 2 or 3, whatever it was. I mean, you get sick, there's obviously concessions. But why, I think we forget that these people work for us.
Exactly.
We're their bosses.
That's right.
They should be accountable to us. And that's crazy that they're not.
And it's not partisan. Everybody,
Yep.
both the right and the left here, are in complete agreement here.
So then it made me think, as we love to talk about our friend Brad Porteous and bridge grades and getting a grade and taking a look at, if you want to keep looking at it through the lens of, school and saying, okay, well, here's your grade for, did you come up with bills? Did you work on a bipartisan bill with somebody from the other side? Okay, can we talk about the budget process real quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is something else. We've seen the government shut down a couple times now in this last session, and it's so infuriating. If I were a TSA employee, I would go, "What am I doing here?
I
What?"
know. It's so
all the
awful.
government workers. It's horrible. So I'm thinking that if you can't come up with, and it's hard. I understand there are 12 appropriation bills that you have to pass. It's 12 segments to the budget that have to get passed if you're going to do a budget. And I understand that it is tedious, it is hard, there's negotiating back and forth, but people don't know what their budgets are if you don't establish a budget. Because these continuing resolutions only allow for the prior years or the prior session's budget. So if you, Department of Homeland Security, had this as your budget, then that's what, if you just do a CR, that's gonna be your budget for next year. And I'm sure, that's such a hot topic, and it got, this huge influx of money that in that last bill, that I'm sure people are going, no, we are not going to have that same budget next year. Great, pass the budget. Get it changed in your subcommittees and come up with a budget. And if you don't, here's the other thing that I thought of. If government can't come up with a budget, then instead of affecting their salaries, because I think you and I talked about this, like if they can't come to an agreement, then they should be punished. Like, let's take away their salaries. Well, one of the things that came out when somebody was talking about that was they're all kind of rich and making money off of their stock trading. So like cutting off their salary for a week doesn't really make that big of a difference. But if you cut the budget, their staff budget, so their staff people, which is somewhere between 10 and 20 people for each congressional member, if you cut their staff, okay, that would make an impact. And your staff would be motivated to make sure that you are going to your meetings and here's some, good information that you can bring to your subcommittee, because they don't want their salary cut. They cannot go on recess. You cannot leave Washington until that budget is passed. Duh. I mean, again.
Well, yes. I mean, here's the thing, Jolene, like you said at the top of this argument or this statement, is that so what that it's hard? So what that it's tedious?
That's why you're there.
That's why you're
Yes.
there. That is why you're there. You don't have to actually do it. We can have someone else do it for you that wants to do it. Life is hard. Life is tedious.
Yeah.
Do it or get out. And I'm with you. And this is, again, not a partisan issue. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed. It just doesn't work. Like, somehow the rules are so bent for these people while the rest of us are slogging away. I can't believe I'm going to use this word. Like, shame on us for continuing to put up with it. Like, and continuing to vote these people in. And also the 5 to 8% people that are voting out of the 100% of us that can vote. I'm like, come on.
And so maybe we need a different way.
Maybe we need a different way. I just want some morality back.
Yeah,
I really
agree.
do. I don't want, like, listen, if you can't keep it in your pants, don't run. Yep. Women too. This is not a male thing. Just stop. Stop.
Well, I think that just the things that people say to each other and just, I think 2028, and in my heart of hearts, I hope 2028 will be the campaign of decency.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be amazing? Like you're saying about the budget, you don't get a recess. You don't get a gold star. You don't get to be voted back in again. You don't, enough. We are allowing this, all of us.
Yeah, right.
Red and blue, liberal, conservative, Democrat, we are allowing this.
Yep.
And I know that it seems so big that, like, well, what are we going to do? Well, vote. Number one, vote for people that matter to you. Don't vote to
in
win.
Your primaries.
Vote in your primaries.
My gosh, if we've learned nothing this year, I think
vote
it's that.
In your primaries. And also, don't be afraid to cross the line, cross your party if you believe in someone else. If they are matching more of what you're feeling, you're not going against your party. You're voting with your heart. That's what this country was created by, people with heart that wanted something different.
Do you have a would you rather?
I do.
Let's hear it.
Oh, okay. Would you rather donate your organs to those who need them, or donate your entire body to science?
Okay, wait, this is such a great question for me because I want to do both.
I know, me too. And that's not partisan either.
That's not partisan at all.
No.
Okay, I think if I'm healthy, I would like to donate my organs so that other people can live. But if I have some weird disease, like, make sure that they give my body to science so that they can figure it out.
Yes, I'm with you 1,000%. And in this way, I will allow you both answers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will allow you both answers.
We need to make sure our husbands know this too.
Yes, for sure. And on that note about donating your parts, we were talking about at one point, and maybe we will revisit this article. It was a New York Times article, actually, about this guy that had a book coming out, and I'm forgive me that I can't remember the name of the book right now, but he had studied rituals all over the world. And the most touching ritual that he had explored and shared was called the honor walk. And I will put, do you remember? And I'll put it in the show notes because it's so incredible that this woman who was a nurse, her sister had passed away. And at the time, she donated her organs, and she was horrified. The nurse who was alive was horrified at how her dead sister was treated, how her parts were treated, and she created this thing called the honor walk that is now in many, many hospitals all over the country. And what they do is the person that has died has donated their parts, and the hospital will stand in the hallway, and the family of the person that has died walks behind their body and their gurney to go to harvest these parts. It couldn't make more sense, and it's shocking that that this didn't exist until this lovely woman with a big old heart said, let's do the honor walk. So I will put that in the show notes because it's something for us all to think about. Like, you know, I understand that we all have different faiths, but we have these beautiful bodies, and if we go early and we can and share our parts, I think is quite a gift.
Yeah, I would agree. Very nice.
Okay.
Okay, mine is a little less heavy.
Listen, it's on brand.
Yeah, that's so true. Nicole.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you rather have everyday citizens drawn from a lottery making our laws, or be able to leave a Google review for your congressman?
Oh, I wish we could do both again.
Well, maybe I'll just let you. Maybe this is the day that we do both.
Because the one that you're highlighting about the everyday citizens, this is, and listeners and viewers, this will be airing in July. And just remember this episode because in the fall, we will be interviewing and airing this wonderful man named Adam Cronkrite. And he has created this beautiful documentary called Goodbye Politicians, Hello Democracy. And he did an experiment in Michigan about a Democratic lottery. And these people were from all parts of the political spectrum, and they created laws on COVID. It's a beautiful movie, and we're very excited to eventually have him on and share him and share the film with all of you. So that is that answer. But the Google review for the politicians, girl.
Seriously?
Can you imagine? Listen, our rating and reviewing episode.
Right?
Let's rate those politicians. And you know they changed their tune.
Yeah. Right? I mean, as a restaurant, if somebody gives you bad reviews, you change because you don't want that to happen.
That's right.
And how many of us use that as a resource to
absolutely
to look?
So are you going to get 5 stars? I mean, that's sort of what Brad Porteous and bridgegrades.org, that's what he's trying to do, that he's grading, you know, to highlight, listen, this person is working together and trying to make things work, and this person is just, you know, performing with their platitudes and blah-de-blah-de-blah. I mean, that's but I love this Google review thing.
So we've really just combined 2 people that we did interview and we're going to interview in that one little question right there. And we've decided we want both.
That's right. We want both. And there's going to be a lot in the show notes, all these resources we just talked about.
You got a lot of work to do.
I do. That's all right. Yeah. It's worth it. All right. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, listener and viewers of We Got to Talk. We're so grateful for you. Please press the thumbs up and subscribe. It helps us. It helps our algorithm. It helps the show. It helps us keep going.
And please share it with a friend and leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you think of this episode or any episode that you've watched or all the episodes that you've watched, because we know that you've seen many of them. Many. So, and we thank you for that.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, Jolene.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye. We've Got to Talk is produced across the world by the wildly talented, creative, and hilarious team at Bambi Media. Our theme song is Jump Jive Swing by Space Train Unlimited. Thank you so much for listening, and join us every week for another episode of We've Got to Talk.